Hey, good evening, everybody. Hope you're having a great evening. Today is day 40. 40. It's been 40 days of me going live each and every night, sharing some leadership tips, what works for me in this season of life that I'm in as Mr. New Dad. It's been an exciting 40 days. What started out as a goal of mine to go 100 days of going live has turned into finding opportunity. I've been able to work with some new people I've never known before. I've been able to coach new people that need coaching and need help and are growing in their season of life. So it's been a lot of fun. Tonight, I just wanted to share an update, but also give a recap after the webinar that I did this weekend. We had about 35 people show up. It was a great event. We went through the 10 common challenges that new dads face in being a new dad. And in one of the 10 that we discussed, I'm going to be talking about that tonight, and that is boundaries, creating healthy boundaries. Sorry, I'm having some technical issues with my connection for some reason. Creating healthy boundaries. What are they? Why are they important? Why should you be thinking about them as a new dad? And what can you do to begin to draw those lines in the sand? And how do you know when you need boundaries? What are boundaries? And who should you be setting boundaries with? It was a great topic. It was one of those topics that really stood out, and so I wanted to get on here tonight and talk about why boundaries are so important in any area of your life, but more importantly, especially if you are a parent, a new parent, or a new dad. And these are just some things that I have learned in my short journey so far of being a new dad. Is boundaries are so important. So one thing that I've taken from boundaries is I shared this book with the men who showed up on Saturday, but Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend wrote this book. And I actually read this book when I was dating my wife because I realized I wanted to have some healthy boundaries around our relationship. And I knew what I wanted, so I wanted to make sure that I was growing within that confined space. And one of the things that I learned about boundaries is that they really define us. Excuse me. They define what is in you and what is not you. It shows me where I end and where someone else begins, and it can lead me to having that sense of ownership. When you have a boundary in place, it really helps distinguish, like almost like your property line, so that we can take care of it. Like this is what is mine. This is what I am protecting, and having those healthy boundary lines, and even that mental awareness of what you are allowing inside of you, what you are allowing to take ownership of you, or take control of you, or take your time and your attention. When you are trying to stay so focused on, hey, I'm a new dad, son or daughter that I am now responsible for. I'm learning how to be more attentive, and serve my wife, serve my family. And these are the things that I really have to pay attention to right now. And so, actually, let me make sure I turn. And so that by doing that, it can really help you guard your property, your family, your own, even your own heart. When you think about personal boundary lines, you are protecting something that you are trying to protect. Your heart, your time, your efforts, your thought process. The more you allow those things to come into your life and take ownership, eventually those things are going to start to take control of you, take control of your time and your effort. And when that happens, it shifts away your area of responsibility, shifts away, or even your mindset shifts away from your family, your wife, your son or daughter, because they've been replaced by those things that you have given ownership to and you've allowed into that property. Does that make sense? And so I really wanted to kind of talk a little bit about setting boundaries and how it's really an act of kindness for yourself. It's really it's something that's very noble to do. It's something that's very by realizing that you need boundaries for myself. I realize it's an emotional response. It's really something that I realize that I have to have this if I want this to grow. It's almost like gardening. I got into gardening this past year. If I want things to grow, I have to take care of it. I made a box. I put the right soil in there. I watered it. I took care of it. But then you also have to keep things out, and so you have to protect those things. The same thing with, your mindfulness and your and your and in the things in your life with your family, and even this role as a new dad. You have to protect that because it's especially in this day and age where it's so easy to be bombarded by the news, TV, the economy, work. Where are those boundary lines that you say, hey, when I step through the threshold of the door, I am leaving that behind me, or I am not bringing work home with me, or I'm not going to have my phone at the dinner table so I can be more present. Try that for a week. I dare you. Um, those are healthy boundaries. And by doing those things, it's like you're paying attention more to what's going on around you. You're able to have conversations. Now, with your wife or with your kids, or even pay attention to what's going on with your new son or daughter. Those are all healthy boundaries. Out of the book, I want to read this. When we set boundaries, it means that we're taking ownership of our needs and feelings. It also doesn't mean that we don't care about other people's problems or spiritual concerns. However, setting healthy boundaries simply means we're not solely responsible for them. That's good, especially when you think about how you set boundaries with your friends, your family, your spouse, your children, your work, even yourself. These are all things that I think the more you learn about yourself and know about yourself and know how you respond, especially in this new season of becoming, how you respond under stress, how you respond under pressure. I'm curious, almost you need to set those boundaries, especially with your work. And I think those lead to great conversations because you're not going to be your best self. Believe me, I have a 7-month-old and I'm averaging maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, interrupted. So I'm not getting that great of sleep. So I'm not going to be my best self. You're not. And so by understanding that and having those conversations with your team, your boss, your colleagues, it almost opens a door to empathy, to be allowed and understanding, saying, oh, John's a new dad. I get it. We've all been there, or he's going through this season, as men in my mastermind that tell me, hey, you're in this season. We know exactly where you're at. You're gonna get through it, but you have to get through it. And I think the way that you get through it is by knowing that about yourself, but then also saying, hey, I need some healthy boundary lines around my house, around me, around my family and my friends, my work, so I can protect myself, so I can bring my best foot forward, so I can bring my best self forward. Does this make any sense? If you are a new dad, or if you're a parent, or a busy dad out there and you're watching this, whether you're catching the live or catching the replay, what has been your biggest challenge or struggle with setting healthy boundaries? And or what has been your biggest success by setting boundaries? So if you were talking to a new dad, what advice would you give him about setting healthy boundaries? and what has worked for you. I'm curious to hear some of the feedback and some of the content back. Um, the biggest thing that whenever I talk about boundaries, it's something, and that's one of the reasons why I love this book by Dr. Cloud, is that even on the title, it says when to say yes and how to say no. I learned a long time ago from a good friend of mine that saying no can be very hard, especially if you're a yes man. Even if you are not a yes man, it's so easy to say yes all the time because you want to help, you want to serve, you want to do, you want to good, you want to participate, you want to volunteer. But at what expense are you saying yes so much that you don't have room to say no? Or why is saying no so difficult for you? Think about that. And because when you say yes so much, you you give up almost the ability to say no because you're constantly saying yes. And I think by doing that, by being that yes man, you really open yourself up to being taken advantage of, being taken for granted, because people know that, oh, John will do it. John, he's always helpful, or he can help us. He'll do it. We can rely on him. And so immediately by becoming that yes man, you set yourself up for failure, because everyone knows and has relied on you for the past 10 years or 5 years or however long, because you have never drawn boundaries around your work, your priorities, what you do and what you don't do, what your strength is, or even what your role is, what your job is, your responsibilities are. If you're always that person that is just like, sure, I'll take it, um, learn how to say no, because by saying no, it's going to open the door to freedom. It's going to open the door for you to have more abilities so you can uphold those boundaries that you're trying to establish. And it's also going to allow you to be more in tune, and it's going to allow you to thrive if you think about it. But if you're constantly saying yes to everything, your best isn't going to be there. So yeah, so if you are that new dad, or if you're that dad that's been in that season, I'd really like to hear your thoughts about this. Or if you're catching the replay on this, I'd like to hear, just comment below or send me a message, because this has certainly opened a door to a lot of challenges that I know a lot of leaders, men and women, but specifically new dads, are challenged by. So certainly appreciate every one of you, and thanks for participating tonight. I will be doing another webinar soon, and so be on the lookout for that. But until tomorrow, stay 41 tomorrow. Have a good night. Be well.